Alzheimer's drug trials have a 99.6% fail rate. And, there's controversy in the Alzheimer's drug industry, if you will, because, again, this is a condition that begins well before the presentation of symptoms.
Can people turn back if someone's on that path of dementia, Alzheimer's? Can you eat your way, so to speak, or habit your way off that?
It was the hardest thing I've ever had to endure. And it was, I'd give anything to have my mom back and in good health. But seeing what it was that you went through, I've never experienced a more profound call to action than to try as best as I can, given my skill set and my voice, to ensure that that doesn't happen to others that I care about.
Okay, Max, you're going to do the shot because I've taken 3 already today. This is the Magic Mind Focus Productivity Shot. By the way, it's the #1 selling shot in Aero One, and Aero One is your favorite
of course.
store.
Wow.
Yeah, look at it. Boom, doesn't he look cute? Oh my God, he looks so cute.
So just all in one go?
Yes, all in one go. And it'll help with focus and being alert. And it has great ingredients, all adapted.
Woo! Ooh, that tasted great, actually.
I know. I'm telling you.
Yum,
right? I'm going to give you a bunch.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Now you're going to be super on point and focused, and you're going to be very productive for the next 5 hours.
Yep, indeed.
All right, Magic Mind.
Thank you, Magic Mind.
Yes. Thank you, Magic Mind. And thank you, Slate. And by the way, like I said, that was the best tasting shot. It wasn't for just because. I just think it's really that good.
It is really good.
I know, right? It is. Okay, everybody. I have Max Lugavere back on the podcast.
What up?
I was just going on and on to Max because Max, you look so good.
Thank you.
You are practicing what you preach. I want to know exactly every day what you're doing habitually, because whatever it is, it's working, because Max is literally aging backwards.
Aw, so sweet. So are you, by the way.
No, not as good as you. I want to know everything you're doing.
Well, man, what is my routine? I just, I practice what I preach. I exercise regularly. I eat.
What's regular? No, I want detail. What's regularly?
Well, I'm a bit of a closet meathead, so I'm doing resistance training 5 to 6 times a week.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm not a big cardio guy, but I do walk as much as I can, which in LA can be challenging. But I, put on a podcast and walk on the treadmill for 20, 30 minutes.
Every day?
Not every day, but most days. And then when I'm traveling, walking through airports and stuff, I find it a lot easier to get my steps in other cities. And so when I'm traveling, it's easier to do that. And I've been traveling quite a bit lately. But yeah, I try to stay as active as possible, and I resistance train really regularly. And I think diet plays a huge role in skin and everything too. So yeah. I'm big on, I take collagen fairly regularly. I'm a huge fan of a supplement called Astaxanthin, which is a carotenoid. It's really good for skin.
What's it called?
Astaxanthin. You've never heard of Astaxanthin?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Tell me everything about it.
Well, Astaxanthin is a carotenoid. So carotenoids like beta carotene is the most well-known carotenoid. Lutein, zeaxanthin. I've talked a lot about how lutein and zeaxanthin are just great for eye health and brain health. But Astaxanthin is good for all of the above as well, but it in particular is really beneficial to skin health and appearance. And so
what brand is it? And this is not paid. I just want to know what it is.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I became familiar with a company called AX3, which makes a very bioavailable form of it.
Okay.
And so they're doing great. They have a great astaxanthin supplement. There's a few others on the market, but in general, very few people know about this. But it's naturally found it's what gives salmon its natural red hue. So it's naturally found in certain marine species, but it's produced by algae, which sit at the surface of the water all day long, absorbing the harmful, DNA damaging rays of the sun. And so what they do is they can't get away.
Right.
So they synthesize this incredibly powerful antioxidant called astaxanthin. And it's that red hue that gives salmon its color after salmon eat the algae. Flamingo are actually born white, but they turn pink because they eat this algae that has this red hue in it. So
you're not pink though. You look very
well, if you
red white actually.
Yeah. If you consume enough of it, you might.
Really?
Yeah. Well, there's if you consume enough beta carotene, you might turn orange, right? So these carotenoids, they're pigments, and so if you consume enough, hypothetically, you'll turn whatever color it happens to be.
But why isn't it very well known? You think you know everything. That's actually a great way to start this podcast, because I thought I've heard it all, right? Like people come here all the time or people send me stuff all the time like you. I've never heard of that or seen that. So where did you how did you figure it out? And have you seen a difference in your skin since you've been using it?
Well, yeah, I first heard about astaxanthin like 15 years ago or so, and I was like really just compelled by the literature that I was reading,
Yeah.
and so I've been taking it for like 15 years, and it's a really interesting carotenoid. It's one of the most powerful antioxidants known. Um,
Then why does anybody else never why does nobody talk about it?
it might be one of the compounds responsible for the health benefits that we see as a result of fish consumption.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Because we attribute the benefits of eating fatty fish like salmon to its omega-3 content, but there's also this really powerful antioxidant that wild salmon and salmon in general contains.
I mean, I'm not even joking because you don't have you're 42 and you look like I'm not just saying this to be nice because you're a guest on the podcast. You really do look like you're like 20.
Thank
Do
you.
you think it could be because of that? Or is it just genetics? Like you're genetically, how about your brothers? Your brothers also look pretty.
It's not genetic. No, my brothers look their age, I would say, but in a good way. No. I mean, I think I look my age too, but
No, you don't.
no.
No, you don't. Honestly, if I didn't know you and you said, yeah, I'm 33, I'd believe you. Or 30, I'd believe
I
you.
think, well, I mean, I did like I don't know,
No, tell me, you did a what test?
a telomere test a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know how, clinically validated those are. I don't think they are clinically validated actually, but it said that my telomeres were, they looked more like somebody who was like, I think it was like 7 to 10 years younger. And telomeres are like
Yeah.
the shoelace caps at the end of your chromosomes that tend to shorten with age. They're thought to protect your chromosomal integrity, so to speak. And so mine seemed like a lot younger than my biological age would would convey. And yeah, I attribute it to like positive diet, lifestyle. Consuming. I've been supplementing with magnesium. That's another one that I take regularly, and
Okay.
magnesium is important for DNA repair.
Which one are you taking? I think it's very confusing. There's like citrate, there's like a bunch of them.
Yeah, I take glycinate, magnesium glycinate for a few reasons. One being that it doesn't cause any GI upset when you take a high dose. Two, it's really bioavailable. You don't have to take it with other foods or anything like that.
Right.
It doesn't rely on stomach acid to be absorbed, unlike other, minerals. And then also magnesium glycinate, it's magnesium bound to glycine. And glycine is another really important amino acid that we tend to underconsume today. So I think it's like a 1-2 punch, magnesium glycinate.
And then how about what do people use magnesium citrate for then?
I mean, you still get the benefits of consuming magnesium when you consume citrate, but citrate in particular is it's used for laxation. So it's a laxative when you take a high dose.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you go to the store, there's like so many different magnesiums, and people being a friend of mine, not me, of course, get confused because there's so many ones to pick from.
Yeah.
I actually just got the BioOptimizer one. I think it's my magnesium glycinate that you just said. It's good.
Yeah, it's like they use like 7 different forms. I think that's like their
Main form. Have you tried that one? It's good actually.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, magnesium is magnesium for the most part, as long as you're getting it. 50% of people don't consume adequate magnesium, and magnesium is involved in hundreds of enzymatic processes in the body that range from ATP synthesis all the way up to like, DNA repair,
Right.
which is important for anti-aging.
Are you taking it before you go to bed?
No, I don't think there's any need to take it before you go to bed.
Oh.
I think it's, I'll take it like in the morning, and I'll take it maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, I think as long as you're replete, it helps with sleep, and it helps with mood and all these other things. I don't think there's an acute effect of, like, I think a lot of people believe that magnesium has this like acute, relaxing, sedating effect. I don't think it, I haven't seen any evidence of that. The evidence on magnesium and sleep is actually fairly weak, but, a lot of people do anecdotally say that it helps with sleep.
Yeah.
Glycine is actually really great for sleep. There's actually clinical data about 3 grams of glycine before bed seems to reduce sleep latency, helps your body better thermoregulate.
Really?
Yeah, before bed. There's like an important temperature drop that has to occur in the body pre-sleep, and glycinate is thought to help with that. So I take 3 grams of glycine before I go to bed many nights.
In what form?
Just glycine. It's a free-form amino acid.
So what?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're into what's that first one called that you said?
Astaxanthin. Great supplement.
Okay, astaxanthin, magnesium. This one that you just said,
Glycine.
glycine. What other things are you taking?
Well, glycine, 1/3 of collagen is glycine, but I take collagen because now there's really good evidence
Yes.
on its, ability to improve skin appearance, skin health. I think that I think that collagen is actually a longevity supplement. I think that glycine is important from a longevity standpoint, and so I think collagen is beneficial in many ways, not just skin. I give it to my cat actually. I give her like 4 grams of collagen.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Are you doing it like what? Okay, so because I think a lot of there's been like a little bit of controversy over that. They say
yeah.
it's like a waste of money. It doesn't really get into the system.
It's not a waste of money. I mean, look, if you're limited on money, there are probably more important things to spend your money on. Like if you
Right.
can't afford health, if you can't afford, you know, a high quality whole food source of protein,
Of
and you're spending your
course.
money on a collagen supplement, that's I think misguided. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Right.
But as a supplement, I think there's definitely good evidence there, um, and I think it's great. I think one of the biggest myths is that collagen doesn't like you ingest collagen, it breaks down, it deaminates into its constituent amino acids, and there's no guarantee that it's going to actually influence collagen production in the body. But we now know that that's in fact the myth. The
Yeah.
myth is that there are collagenous peptides that remain intact through digestion, and we absorb them. And
So you just
so
mix it with water as opposed to like putting your
I
smoothie.
mean, here's a cool hack. I mix it into if I do takeout, for example, and I get like any kind of soup or any kind of hot beverage, I literally will add 10 to 20 grams of collagen to whatever's like, if I get takeout Tom Kha soup from my favorite Thai restaurant
Yeah. Yeah.
and I get it at home and I'll put collagen into that soup.
Doesn't it ruin the texture and the
No,
taste?
doesn't change it at all. Yeah, it's great. And you're literally adding protein to your meal.
Oh, I
It,
love that
yeah.
hack. Okay. You can also, I guess, add it to like oatmeal if you have oatmeal.
You could do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can add it to most things. I mean, I'll add collagen. It's so covertly, it just like blends into whatever it is that
Whatever it
you're.
is that you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
That's a good one too. Okay, give me another one. Give me all the ones. We all want to look like you, Max.
yeah. I mean, I take creatine. I've taken creatine fairly regularly for the past 5 years, I would say. Well, on and off for the past 5 years, but I've taken it consistently for the past 2 years.
For your brain health also. It's really good for your brain,
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah. There was a recent meta-analysis that found that supplemental creatine led to a small but significant improvement in cognitive function.
Yeah.
When looking at all these different studies, because a meta-analysis is a study of studies, and so I do supplement with creatine. I also, um, enjoy it for its physical performance boosting. It's a really well studied sports supplement.
They say it's like, now I feel like now
Everybody's
it's
talking about it.
right. It's having a moment right now. It
Yeah.
was huge in like the 90s and 2000 for like bodybuilders. It's always been big in the
My
body.
high school senior thesis I wrote on creatine monohydrate.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been in this world for a long time, it feels like. But yeah, in the year 2000, I was writing about creatine. And
Is it funny how now things are kind of like, it's like 25 years later,
yeah,
it's like coming up now.
no, it's crazy. I mean, I love it because I've always been a nerd for this kind of stuff, which is
It's,
why I'm so grateful that I got to do what I do.
I know. Well, also you're very good at explaining sometimes very not complicated, but kind of you can make it very digestible for people to understand.
Thank you.
That's what your superpower is.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
everybody has to kind of find their niche. I mean, I love to provide actionable, empowering information to my audience. I mean, some people, their whole shtick is seemingly like talking shit about others on social media, and
Yeah.
that's not my thing at all.
Because it kind of gets a lot of engagement, and then the algorithm and your followers, and it's like that is what a lot of people do in the fitness space. They like
No,
talk shit, and they like shit on somebody else, and then like it goes back and forth, and it does very well with the algorithm.
I have no zero interest. In many ways, and I try not to engage. Like I'm trying to actually limit my use of social media in general, particularly these days. But it definitely is starting to feel a lot more and more like high school,
Yeah,
like a high school cafeteria environment.
totally true.
And I just think it's actually kind of repulsive.
How do you stop? I mean, like, how do you stop engaging with this is your business, right? Like you have a ton of like 1 million followers already.
Something like
That's
that.
crazy. And like it's a big area of your like business, I presume. Like how do you just not like stop engaging in it? Like, do you have like a set time? Like, I'll go on it from like 7 to 9 in the morning, and then again like for another hour. Like, do you have timers on your phone, or you just have to like have the discipline not to like open the app?
That's a really good question. I actually, so at this point, I have, there are a few ways in which the people that follow me can engage with me, ask me questions. I try to make myself really available to my followers. But one area where I've reduced my availability, I guess, is in the comment section, like
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. So my method now is this isn't I do dip in time to time to see what people are talking about, but I try as best I can to post and ghost. So I basically post and then I stay out of my notification tab
That's
on
great.
on Instagram. And if people have questions, like the people who really care about me and my work,
Yeah.
and want to have good faith
Mm-hmm.
like conversations with me and discussions, like they can text me, they can email me, they can engage with me in a myriad of different places. But I find that the comment section, like because people can like drop in that don't that like people will come in and like ask you to, like, the best is when people seemingly like have a question. They'll pose a question, but you can tell based on their wording, it's not a good faith. Like they don't really care to have their biases challenged or anything like
Right.
that. They're just like trying to like catch you or something.
Yeah.
And
Or stir the pot
and they
in
don't even
some way.
follow you at the end of the day. So it's like, why am I giving my time to some random account on social media?
Exactly.
Like,
Well,
my
also,
time is so much more valuable than that.
oh my God.
All of our time is,
But people get stuck in the weeds like that, and it's like a time suck. Like hours can go by,
Yeah.
and it also like it can also affect your mood for the rest of the day because you see this one lousy comment.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like remove yourself. But I find like people like you take a stand on like meat protein. It's like the most ridiculous. Like, can you imagine 20 years ago being like hated because you eat chicken?
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening.
It's
like
absurd.
the vegans versus the meat protein people, they go at it. It's so insane.
Yeah.
The vitriol and hate that happens.
Not only that, but it's like the fact that I get hate for it, which I do
So
all the time.
stupid.
I'm not even a carnivore advocate. Like I advocate for vegetables just as much as I advocate for, the consumption of red meat. But,
I know.
But because there's so much misinformation now about like red meat and animal source foods, I feel like they're worth advocating for,
But the fact that this is even a topic that is like a hashtag, like this is a trend now, like who are you on the vegan side? Are you on the meat proteins? Like what kind of crazy world are we living in that's literally like the topic of conversation?
It's become high school. That's
the high school. That is a high school cafeteria.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah. It's gross.
Like it's so ridiculous to me. And then like people like are calling out everybody like the best is that guy, what's his name? The Paul Saladino guy. Like he gets so much hate thrown at this guy, although he is kind of cuckoo, but like but like he doesn't eat anything. But like the point is like people hate him like he's like murdered their family because of his belief system.
It's absurd.
It's so crazy to me.
Yeah. And most of these people, by the way, if you were to meet them in person, like they'd be docile and cool, probably.
And like normal, nice people.
But it's just that social media there's this this distance that makes people feel as though they can just sling whatever hate they want.
Oh, I know.
And it's not good. I mean, I think one of the most important questions of our time, it's like, put nutrition aside for a moment. It's like, how do we navigate this world where there's so much polarity and so much hate? And it does take a toll, it does take a toll on people's mental health. You do have to cultivate a relationship with these technologies that I think, we're not taught how to do.
Because it happened kind of fast, right? And if you've seen I'm sure because you read a lot, have you seen all the research on like the mental health and the suicides and the depression based on when Instagram, TikTok, and since 2013 or 14, whenever it started, the numbers have become, they've like, I think the numbers are like 70% of kids who are since then, their mental health, the suicide rates have like quadrupled, like by more than quadrupled actually. Wow. Because it's you also the whole like what they have versus what I have, the whole like comparison game. It's so terrible, so toxic. I wish we go back to the time when we had a flip phone.
Yeah.
Remember that? And
yeah.
we like had like real relationships, like in real time.
I know. That would be great. I mean, I get, on social media, there are a lot of people that do post fairly, like in our world, like the wellness world, there are people that post, like, I think information that could
Yeah.
potentially, be harmful. And I think that has to, but you should always, like, I think, look for somebody who's attacking the information and the data as opposed to the person.
Yeah.
I think that's a good litmus test for, at least for me, somebody who I might choose to follow, somebody who is, not attacking the person and making like ad hominem attacks,
Right.
But rather the information that's presented.
Well, I think it's really difficult, right? Because there's become so many people. Like before, you had like the wellness world or health world was not that it was small, but like you had the certain players. But I feel now it's become so expanded, and every wellness and fitness and health has become very cool and sexy. Like, there's been like like being an entrepreneur is sexy now, and wellness and fitness and working out is sexy. It wasn't like that like 15 years ago, right? Like things ebb and flow,
Yeah.
right? Like reality TV was really big 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now it's like being a wellness influencer.
It's the biggest thing, yeah.
It's the biggest industry. Like it's growing exponentially. So people who don't know what they don't know, they're getting a myriad of information, a myriad of people. They don't know what they're like who to believe, right? So they end up doing everything, and it's actually more detrimental. Like they're not, like people, like we were talking like before, like just in terms of your supplements, right? Like if you're deficient in it, or if it's actually doing something that you're really knowledgeable in, then take it. But people now are just like, oh, this fitness person who's 20 years old is taking this. Okay, I'll take it. And then you end up taking a plethora of stuff that you're not even supposed to be taking. And it's like, it actually could be more detrimental to your health than ever. So I guess my question is, who do you think, like, who do you look at as like your kind of your North Star of where you get information, who you think is good to follow, or like in general, like, how do you tell people like what they should do to kind of guide their path?
Yeah. Well, this, I mean, might be surprising, but I don't listen to any other health podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally I listen to Mind Pump because I just love those guys so much.
Me too. I just love them.
But I don't pay attention to anybody else.
Yeah.
Like in the, I mean, well-known figures in the health and I don't pay attention to any of them because I feel like they're all chasing clout at this point. They're all like, I've got the secret magic formula. I've got the secret magic morning routine. I've got the protocol. And to me,
I have the program, buy my program.
Yeah. And to me, it's just like, it's just clout chasing. It's not science. It's like, yeah, there's good information to be gleaned from from everybody. There's a lot of, but this idea that like gatekeepers of scientific truth today on social media, that you're going to find the magic formula on a certain podcast. I've said this all the time, even about my own podcast. Like, you shouldn't take what you hear on any show or from any single individual as gospel. Let it be a jumping off point,
a
diving off point to do your own research and to to get out there and learn how to read scientific studies and interpret scientific literature. I think that to me is a great way to approach and contextualize all of the information glut that we're now, living amidst.
Involved. And also, like, if you really think about it, like even the stuff that you're just telling me, like no one wants to hear the truth, which is it's like old fashioned hard work. It's working out, right? Watching what you eat and making smart choices, right? And like supplementing where like things may be necessary.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. And people are trying to complicate things that are like really not that complicated to sell something. That's really what's happening.
Well, I think what gives me a unique perspective in this space is that, well, two things. One is that I've seen in my own life real sickness, like real illness that destroyed my family, for many years. And well, I shouldn't say destroyed, but it took a massive toll, and it was incredibly stressful and tragic. And and so I come at this as a point of like, my goal is never to mislead anybody or instill false hope or anything like that. And if I am doing that, then I want people to tell me, in a respectful way, like, but yeah, I like, for me, these like highfalutin protocols and things like that, like most people would be really well served focusing on the low hanging fruit, not these like really intricate, details and minutia. And the second thing that I would say that's really influenced my point of view is that, unlike a lot of people who are simply like influencers, who have come about in the social media era, I've been doing television for the entirety of my career, like
Right.
national TV. And I've gotten to do major TV shows many times, like the Dr. Oz show, the Rachel Ray show. I've done the Today Show many times. And even prior to that, I had a TV show on this
Current.
current TV,
Yeah.
this Al Gore platform. So, unlike on social media where it's really easy to cultivate an echo chamber, that's TV is not an echo. TV is never an echo chamber. With TV, you don't know who you're reaching. And so when I go on shows like the Today Show, I know I'm exquisitely aware that I'm reaching people who still today, currently in the United States, live in food deserts, and who don't have access to grass-fed, grass-finished beef. So my experience, my perspective that I bring to everything that it is that I try to communicate has been honed by those things. Real profound sickness and like the clinical experience that I had with my mom, going to doctor's offices and experiencing in every instance, diagnose and adios, and then reaching people who have no idea like that sugar sweetened beverages aren't good for your health.
It's so true, right? It's so true. And like you're very unique in that way. Like your journey really with health or with the brain and is because of your mom, right? Like that's how everything really was. That was like the starting point for all of this stuff, right? And then now you did a documentary. It's called? It was so beautiful.
Little Empty Boxes. You saw it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I saw it. Little Empty Boxes. I was crying in the back because it was so hard. It was so well done, and you were just like a son that just loved his mom so much. And like the fact that you put out a documentary in honor of her to show the world, I don't know. As a mom, that was like super touching and moving for me to see. And like what your mother like had to go through, what you guys did as a family. I mean, it's like heartbreaking to see that,
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to endure, and it was, I mean, I'd give anything to have my mom back and in good health. But seeing what it was that you went through, I mean, it's there. I've never experienced a more profound call to action than to try as best as I can, given my skill set, and my voice, to, ensure that that doesn't happen to others that I care about. And I don't know everything, and nobody does, but I my mom was not privy to, I think accurate and sound, reasonable nutrition science. She wasn't, because we live in a world now where we outsource all that stuff. We outsource culinary literacy to Grubhub. We outsource our financial literacy to our accountants or whatever, and I have no idea, come tax season, what my accountants, it's like, we're completely in the dark. And our ancestors were generalists. Like, we now live in the era of specialization, but this has just been a blip on the radar in terms of the evolutionary timescale. And I think we've suffered as a culture and individually as a result. And so when my mom became sick, I realized that a lot of the maxims that we as a family thought to be true about what it meant to eat healthily were bullshit. This idea that, we've got to be careful with foods that contain cholesterol. Like, that's something that many people still believe today, that eggs are dangerous to the cardiovascular system. They're one of the most nutritious foods that you can eat,
Yeah. That's bioavailable protein, isn't it? Like that you can get your hands on.
Yeah. This idea that like saturated fat, when saturated fat is overconsumed, it might do negative things in the body, but any nutrient when overconsumed will do negative things, in the body. And so that the fact that we've demonized natural saturated fat containing foods like red meat, to me, is just like, it's a crime against humanity, really.
It is. Is there, in all your research and with the movie and with your mom, even when you were there, can people like turn back if someone's on that path of dementia, Alzheimer's? Is there a way can you eat your way, so to speak, or habit your way like off that I guess that trajectory and kind of backward pedal it to somewhere else?
Yeah, so I believe you can, but not if you've already been diagnosed. And the reason for that is that Alzheimer's disease in particular, and this probably applies to other forms of dementia, it certainly applies to Parkinson's disease. These are essentially diseases of midlife with symptoms that appear in late life. And so the earlier you can start, the better. But once you've received that diagnosis, you're already essentially in the late stage of the disease. And I think that there are things that you can do to slow the progression, but nobody's ever recovered or survived Alzheimer's disease.
Is there any research that says that, like, because I'm sure you're on top of this, are they working on not, I guess, a cure to kind of stop it in its tracks? Are they close to finding a cure?
With all my heart, I hope that one day we arrive at that. But no, I mean, Alzheimer's drug trials have a 99.6% fail rate, and there's controversy in the Alzheimer's drug industry, if you will, because again, this is a condition that begins well before the presentation of symptoms, and the predominant theory as to what causes Alzheimer's disease has been dubbed the amyloid hypothesis, and that's been the focus of pharmaceutical, drug discovery for the past couple of decades, and it's been a dismal failure. And nonetheless, we see drugs, that are accelerated and put on the market all the time now. With, I mean, a handful in particular, like these monoclonal antibodies like aducanumab and lecanemab. They're successful at removing plaque from the brain, but they don't fix any of the meaningful memory symptoms. And in fact, they tend to increase risk for, a number of really scary side effects like brain swelling, brain bleeding, accelerated brain atrophy, and even death. So they're certainly not cures. And if I myself, God forbid, one day were to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, or any other form of dementia, I personally wouldn't take these drugs.
Is Alzheimer's genetic? Like, what does cause it? What is the cause?
Scientists don't know the cause of Alzheimer's disease, and I'm certainly not going to pretend to. But we have risk factors. We have genetic risk factors, but the heritability is low. It's ultimately, I think, and this is, I think, fairly well accepted at this point, that it's the interaction between our genes, genetic risk factors, and our age and our gender. Gender.
Your mom was really young.
She was super young. Yeah.
How old was she when she got diagnosed?
She was 58 when she first started showing symptoms, and then it was a couple years later when she received the Lewy body dementia diagnosis.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it's different. I think it's exposure to the standard American diet. It's hypertension, it's type 2 diabetes, it's obesity, all of those things wreak havoc on the brain. But then there's also, non-dietary factors like air pollution. We're now starting to see that exposure to excessive air pollution, over an extended period,
wow,
can, wreaks havoc on the brain as well.
What else does that's new that we don't know, maybe?
Hearing loss is a newly identified modifiable risk factor. We don't really know why, but we know that, if you have hearing loss, wearing a hearing aid could be, potentially helpful and may reduce risk.
Really?
Well, because social isolation is a risk factor as well. So my theory is that, hearing loss, you become increasingly closed off from the outside world. And so that's just not good from a brain health standpoint.
So you're saying that loneliness, isolation can cause dementia or Alzheimer's?
It's a risk factor, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there was that Harvard study on longevity. I think it was like the 80-year-long Harvard study on adult development that found that social isolation and loneliness was like the worst thing for health. I mean, it's like on par with, cigarette smoking and alcoholism, essentially.
You're right. I know the study you're talking about, and that's actually a big epidemic in the world right now, is loneliness because of social media. People don't feel the need to like leave their house.
It's crazy.
And have relationships. And but I didn't realize that there was a connection between, like, I knew that I heard that loneliness and isolation is like one of the biggest, that's a big reason why people die. I didn't realize it was because of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it's a risk factor. It's a modifiable.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's probably bidirectionality there. The more demented a person becomes, the more likely, the more prone they are probably to self-isolation. But yeah, cutting yourself off for the world it's not good. We thrive, I think,
with human contact
Yeah.
and relationships.
Yeah. Depression is a risk factor.
Did your mom have any of those things in her, like when your mom was diagnosed, what was her life like, prior to that? Was she active? Was she healthy? Was she?
She was a health conscious woman, but her generation didn't exercise very much. Um, but she also, and this is like really new science that I've become increasingly interested in. She worked in the garment center in New York City, where she was likely exposed to various industrial toxicants. Um, and we're now starting to see that. So her condition was it was Lewy body dementia, which actually has more in common with Parkinsonism than it does Alzheimer's disease. And there's now a growing suspicion that Parkinson's disease, which is, there's a lot less research with regard to Parkinson's disease and lifestyle risk factors than there is Alzheimer's disease. But we're now starting to see that there's an environmental toxic exposure that likely plays a role in the, in the etiology of Parkinson's disease. And so certain herbicides, pesticides, industrial solvents that are still today used in, for example, the dry cleaning industry, when exposed to, might actually act as mitochondrial toxins and cause conditions like Parkinson's disease. There's a researcher whose work is incredible, and I got to speak with him recently. I was invited to moderate a panel at the Brain and Environment Symposium in DC that he put on along with the University of Rochester. His name is Dr. Ray Dorsey, and he's a neurologist, and he's done a lot of advocacy work, and he's published on this topic, looking at the link between certain chemicals like trichloroethylene, or TCE, and its related compound PCE, perchloroethylene, and Parkinson's disease. And he essentially believes, as all evidence-based, the evidence, there needs to be more research done, but he believes that Parkinson's disease is essentially a man-made condition. And my mom was in the garment center. My family dry cleaned clothing regularly, but she was also in this manufacturing environment where, who knows?
Right.
She may have been exposed. People in certain industries have higher risk of being exposed, but these compounds are volatile organic compounds. They readily evaporate. They can infiltrate groundwater super easily. If you live anywhere near a dry cleaner, for example,
I've heard this.
Yeah, the evidence suggests that these compounds can, either in the groundwater, in the air, they're fat soluble, so they can be essentially sequestered by fatty foods. They found trichloroethylene in butter and margarine in homes close to dry cleaners. And
wow.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Lots of, I think something like anywhere between 4 and 20% of drinking water in the United States has been found to contain very, very low levels of trichloroethylene. But, it's just terrifying that compound is in any drinking water in the United States,
Like, have you heard of hydrogenated water, by the way?
Heard of it, but not super familiar with
Oh, I was going to ask you, is that in your opinion, do you think that's something that people should be drinking?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've seen there's a little bit of evidence on it, but that's one of those areas where, for regular people, am I recommending hydrogen water? I think filter your water, ideally with like a reverse osmosis purifier. But I drink spring water. I am very lucky. I get to buy spring water for my house.
Yeah. That's me too. I drink spring water too. But
yeah, it's just I don't think you can't drive yourself nuts. I just try to do the best that I can. I try, I have an air filter in my purifier in my room. In my bedroom, I try to like wet dust as much as I can and vacuum to get rid of some of the dust and stuff. I keep my house fairly well ventilated, and I try to drink as much as I can purified water.
Would you get your clothes dry cleaned, or would you stay away from that? Would you recommend people to stop dry clean? Like at the now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very lucky in that I don't really have to dry clean most of my clothing.
I don't ever have look at me. I don't really.
Yeah.
My jeans and my sweaty tank top don't need to be dry cleaned.
No, but no, I would not. I would ever since I learned about this connection from Dr. Dorsey, I would not dry clean my clothing, or if I did, I would find a dry cleaner that used green, solvents and the like. One of the reasons why they use trichloroethylene to spot clean primarily. And that's,
Mm.
they used to use it, I think, in a more ubiquitous way, but now I think it's used primarily to spot clean. But nonetheless, if this compound is in the dry cleaner, I would want
Yeah.
to avoid it gets in the air.
Well, now I have people. I have, and again, this is not for like again the regular people. This is probably like too much, but I have friends now who are like now only wearing clothes that don't have particular chemicals, like you were talking about, because of all these things that can seep into your skin, that can cause these things. Is that taking it a step too far? Like, are your jeans and your t-shirt, are they
No.
a regular brand or is it some?
No, regular brand, but I try to buy, I buy laundry detergent that doesn't have synthetic fragrances in
Mm,
it,
okay, yeah,
I'm not driving myself nuts, but I try to, it's like, I don't think it's too big of a lift to
yeah,
say, look, if you're bringing something into your house, like make sure there's no synthetic fragrances,
yeah,
because we know that those are there due to the presence of phthalates, which are endocrine disruptors,
right, right.
Um,
What about,
and if I do, by the way, like my,
yeah,
my laundry machine has an extra rinse cycle. I try to like, I hit that every time I wash my
do
clothing.
you really?
Yeah.
Okay, what about the science on saunas and your brain and Alzheimer's? Do you think that science is a good science? Is it
Yeah.
something that you think is like, can you is if someone like incorporates the sauna, they say like 3 times, 4 times a week, it's gonna like it will improve their brain health, they're less prone to Alzheimer's. Is
Yeah.
that
It seems
accurate?
to. Well, it's not settled science, but what
What's
is,
settled science?
yeah. Whatever is, particularly in the field of like nutrition and lifestyle, but it's,
Like habits, like think about like
yeah,
habits that people can that are
saunas
not
are
like
great.
crazy, just like things that you can easily potentially incorporate or are not so far off the beaten
Yeah.
path.
Well, sweating is a really important route of detoxification.
Right. But
Um,
exactly, like is that really the only benefit? Because you can sweat, like it doesn't have to be in a red infrared sauna then.
yeah.
It could be in a, you know, put the heat up or like, you know what I mean? Like put
Yeah.
the steam on in your bathroom.
As long as you're sweating, I think that
Right.
that's good. Yeah. And like even sitting in a hot bath has benefits in terms of it gets your heart, your heart pumping, boosts nitric oxide, which is really good for cardiovascular health, which is important for brain health.
Right.
Um, and yeah, a lot of the sauna research comes out of Finland, and I think that's a good thing because it's
Yeah.
it's though it's observational and correlation doesn't equal causation. In Finland, it's a lot less sauna use is a lot. It's not as prone to healthy user bias as it would be here. Doing those same kinds of studies here in the United States, because sauna use in the U.S. is a privilege and it's associated with spas and
Mm-hmm.
self care and all that
Right.
stuff. Whereas in Finland, which is where a lot of this observational data comes from, using a sauna is like taking a shower. So
Yeah.
it's just generally a part of basic hygiene practices essentially in Finland. I mean, you have one sauna on average per household in Finland. We don't have that here,
I know.
so it's very commonly used there. And they see that people who use saunas I think it's like 2 to 3 times a week associated with like a 35% risk reduction for Alzheimer's disease. And then, higher than that, you see a dose response, like even higher risk reduction.
But aren't there like also studies like so like I have a sauna, right? It's like the red infrared sauna. It goes only to 170, right?
Yeah.
170 degrees. It's like hot, but it's not crazy hot,
Yeah.
but it's hot. I have friends who are in a sauna that are 220. Now, can that actually like hurt your brain? Can that actually be like detrimental and dangerous at that point?
Yeah. You don't want to, yeah, there's risks for sure. And I
Because
think
that's now the new thing, right? Like,
it's
oh, who
super
wants to
hot.
have like 160? You have to have 220,
Yeah.
240. Like, burn your brain. That's like
No.
like that's what people want to do now.
Yeah, there are risks at the higher end of the heat spectrum, and so you do want to be careful. You don't want to overdo it. You definitely don't want to overdo it. I mean, the benefits of sauna are thought to be due to a principle called hormesis, where a low dose of a stressor actually elicits a protective, like reparative response from the body. But we can't forget that these are stressors. And
Yeah.
so a high dose of
of
said stressor might actually kill you.
Yeah.
So we just have to be really careful, you know?
But that thing, like, it's also the idea is, or the whole philosophy with people is more,
Yeah.
right? Not less is more.
Right.
Like, if the sauna's good, let's go to 300 now. Like,
Right.
it's like stupid behavior.
Well, you do have to elicit, an adaptive response. You do have to kind of push your body to, if not past, to some degree, the point of, the point of discomfort.
Yeah.
And this is certainly, this is true with exercise, is it not?
Right.
With resistance training. Like, I
Right.
think a lot of people don't push themselves hard enough in the gyms.
Right.
In the
Are you
gym.
pushing yourself hard enough? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because I remember you'd like to go to the gym and you'd be on your phone. I would run into you, I think, a couple times.
Yeah.
But now apparently you're pushing yourself. You look like you are.
Well, because I've learned that, you do generally have to go, you have to be, for example, with weightlifting, which is my, which I love to do. Yeah, it's my go-to. You have to like lift, each set has to come, close to failure. And then,
Yeah.
some sets you want to hit failure, and some sets you might even choose to go past failure, and so like that's the way to send that signal to your body to adapt and grow stronger.
How long are you, by the way, getting back to the workout for a second, how long are you working out for the 4 or 5 times a week that you're doing your strength training? How long is each session? Are you doing splits? Are you doing
Yeah, I
full
do a split.
body? You do splits?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I do a split. I think that I think that like a lot of people love to talk about the benefits of full body. Our mind pump friends love full body
Yeah.
stuff. I like a split. I like to focus on a certain body part, with every workout. And my workouts are like 45 minutes. They're not crazy. 45
Okay.
minutes to an hour.
Is it the first thing you do in the morning? Like, tell me what time you wake up, by the way, when you go to the gym, all the things. We kind of like went into the supplements, and I
Yeah.
never got these things. And I'm
Yeah, the
circling
basics.
back because I want to make the basics down.
I generally will wake up around 8 a.m., if not a little earlier, but it depends. Like I don't set an alarm. So if I stay up late the night before, I let myself sleep. I woke up at like 10 a.m. the other day, and I thought I felt
You
great.
did?
Yeah.
It's good.
There was over the past like couple months, there was like one day where I got like 11 hours of sleep.
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
it was insane.
You
Yeah.
can tell you don't have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I don't always sleep great. Like I've had a few nights over the past month where I've like my sleeping hasn't been great, but for the most part, it's really good. So I wake up at like 8 a.m. I drink coffee, and usually black,
Okay.
and I do a little bit of work, and then 45 minutes to like 45 minutes after I wake up, generally, that's when I eat breakfast. I don't wait too long.
Oh, okay. And what do you have for breakfast? Eggs?
Um,
Protein?
Eggs these days, yeah, huge bolus of protein. I try to get between 40 and 60 grams of protein for my first meal,
Okay.
because there's good data on that. Now
Yep.
I used to, write off breakfast as being like an optional meal, and certainly it is optional, but I think having a big bolus of protein first thing in the morning, there's data that has now come out showing us that that's a really good way to like set your appetite.
I believe that 1000%.
Yeah,
But you can anything you want, you can confirm that by, like, you can say that
correct.
confirmation bias. Like, now, if I had someone here who is a big faster and intermittent faster,
Yeah.
they'd be like, I'm going to show you piles of data that says that that's what you should do for autophagy and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't, like, I don't like that type of thing, because I believe, like, everyone's different, but I believe that for me anyway, I think, like, if I don't eat in the morning, I'll just eat 10 times more when I have lunch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
This is an area where I've changed my mind. I think for to be science-based, like you have to be willing to change your mind
Yeah.
publicly as well. When you're a public figure, I think it's
Are
really
you a
important.
public figure, Max?
Well,
Just kidding.
in certain circles,
He's so,
maybe.
yeah, he is. He's so cute. I love him. Okay, go on.
I, I don't think that there's any good reason to delay breakfast. I think there's more good to be gained by, pumping the brakes on that overnight muscle protein breakdown effect,
hmm
and to, stimulate muscle protein synthesis
So what is
soon
okay?
after
So
waking
tell me
up.
what were you someone who believed in it? Like, were you an intermittent faster for a minute?
Yeah, I used to think, and granted, this was probably due to, not appreciating the the nuances of like longevity research as much as I think do now and have come to over the past few years. But there was I think like the more you could kick the can down further towards noon or even later to have your first meal, you're getting like more autophagy or more fat burning.
Mm-hmm.
And you know we just know now from like the growing body of data that that's not really the case. Like autophagy occurs when we're sleeping, like autophagy occurs. It's
Right.
also not binary. Like you experience autophagy in certain tissues, and a calorie deficit can stimulate autophagy, exercise stimulates autophagy, coffee stimulates autophagy. It's not something that like we have to chase. It's just like our biology is much smarter than that.
So like when you were doing intermittent, how long did you do it for?
I mean, I would do like and I still try not to eat too late at night, and that's more like time restricted. It's more like circadian, eating on par with like our circadian
Right.
inclinations. But, I used to like, there were days when I wouldn't have my first meal until 2 p.m. And I would think that that was like extra fat burning
Yeah.
or like extra autophagy.
When was it? How many years
I no
ago?
longer believe that to be true. That's I think that's misguided, because you're essentially in prolonged muscle protein breakdown. Like when you're from the meal the night prior till 2 p.m. I mean, that's a lot of time that you're basically, first of all, it's going to make it a lot harder to hit your daily protein target. We know that, you want to hit it. There's a certain daily protein target that you want to hit if you want to optimize your body composition
Yep.
and your metabolic health, right? So why are you, going to just make it more difficult for yourself to do that later in the day? It's going to be harder because protein is the most satiating macronutrient. You're certainly not going to be able to hit, your daily protein goal in one meal.
Nope.
Right.
And also at the end of the day, isn't it like a calorie deficit, right? Because the idea is like, if I'm only eating in this window, I'll only have the ability to eat this amount of calories. Like maybe that's how you're going to limit your calories.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like why I think that's why most people do it. They think it's a way for weight loss.
Yes. And it can be. So, it's like, I don't want to, if that's a tool that people find helpful, then by all means keep doing it. But from purely like a muscle protein synthetic standpoint,
Yeah.
like there's no point in, and there could be detriment to, to not eating and also from an appetite regulation standpoint, the data seems to suggest that, eating protein first thing in the morning is a really great way to set your hunger pattern for the day. Now, if you are able somehow to hit your protein target in that super compressed feeding window, then fine, then by all means do it. It's just gonna be more difficult. That's it.
But also, maybe you can answer this question, because I've noticed men do better on intermittent fasting than women. I find that the women have maybe because of hormones, like for me, example, it was terrible for me. It would never work. Hasn't worked. Can't work. Have you seen any research on that? Like for men, it works better. For women, it's not so great, or vice versa. Or people as you age in like perimenopause, 40s, whatever. Like, is it better for your hormones? Worse for your hormones?
Well, it's a stressor, and so we don't know for sure. But I think one of the proposed reasons why it can be more challenging for women is that women's bodies are more sensitive to to signals of energy scarcity, for example, because when child rearing, it's a lot, that's a lot more risky to do when there's famine, right? And so I think, women, it's just a stressor, just like everything else. And then you throw chronic stress, psychological stress, coffee, and all the trappings of modern society into that milieu. And it's like, I think it can be a recipe for disaster. But some women really enjoy fasting. Some women hate it. I think you just have to, there's nothing magical about it. If it works for you, by all means do it. It's just that, I think the problem is when social media, like influencers, promote it as being this like magical thing that you have to do in order to lose fat. That's where I think it's like,
well, all these,
BS.
they're in the last couple, I would say 3 or 4 years, there's become a lot of fasting gurus.
Yeah.
Who are like their whole thing is like, you have to fast, and here's why. Your body's going to do this, your body's going to, and like
You're fasting when you're sleeping. You
I
know,
know.
you get the benefits of fasting when you're sleeping.
100%. And it's like, they're like, especially when you are in middle age and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, meanwhile, you look at some of these people, they look so unhealthy. It's like, it's actually kind of, it's
Yeah.
crazy to me, right? What's your take on the GLP-1, the Ozempics of the world, the weight loss drugs?
I think I'm super grateful that I think they're revolutionary drugs for people who have exhausted all other options. I think what's really tragic and dangerous about them is now people who they're using them as a first line of defense, and they're using it for, for vanity purposes. Here in Hollywood, it's like you can't even get it.
You can't, by the way, you can't get it anywhere in the country because of Hollywood,
Yeah.
because they're taking like the whole,
Yeah. They're now putting kids on it. It's
they're
like,
putting kids on it now.
yeah, I think it's horrible.
Wow.
But I am glad that we have it for people who've exhausted all other options, and as a means of, people have been getting like surgery, right, for a long time. So now we have a drug where you don't have to go under the knife, and for and now have a family member that's been using it, and because they don't seem to be able to regulate their satiety the way that that.
Well,
that
how long have
others
they
do.
been on it, and have they lost weight on it?
They've lost some weight, yeah, a couple months.
And they how much have they lost?
But there are serious side effects. He's got, extreme fatigue from it. It's obviously not ideal, but, being very overweight is.
How much has he lost?
I think he's lost like 15 pounds.
In 2 months?
A couple months, like 3-4 months, something like that. Yeah.
Is that the Ozempic or the there's another one that works on two different it's like the
a tripeptide. I don't know.
He's
on semaglutide.
Yeah, semaglutide is the Ozempic one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what are the side effects? Like, he's tired all the time?
Yeah, like crazy fatigue. No nausea. That's a commonly reported side effect. But he hasn't had that. But yeah, the goal is not to be on it forever. You've got to still institute healthy habits and like learn about nutrition and whatever. But some people do have more difficulty deriving a sense of satiety from food. And that I think is where the genetic aspect of things comes into play. I mean, obesity is certainly not primarily genetic, but I think there are genetic aspects to it. And they're now actually starting to study semaglutide in the context of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. They've already shown that it reduces risk for cardiovascular events. I'm not saying there are no potential downsides to it. There may very well be. But being obese is very unhealthy, and so insofar, and also being type 2 diabetic is very unhealthy.
Right.
And so insofar as it reduces blood sugar and can help you be not obese, I think that there is likely some long-term health benefit to be gleaned from it. Again, if it's your last resort option.
Well, I think what you said is also very important, right? Which is the fact that it's one thing if you need it, if you're a diabetic or obese, but I think that it's the rampant overuse if you don't even need it for vanity reasons, right? That's because then, like, do you just gain all the weight back anyway once you're off of it? And is it something you can stay on forever on? I mean, I don't know the answers to those things, but
you don't have to gain the weight back if you learn about nutrition and you prioritize protein and you resistance train. The odds are good that like you can come off of it and not gain the weight back.
But for the people who are doing it for vanity and they're not learning, or in general, I think actually this is more for everybody, right? Like if you're not learning behavioral change and you're just taking a drug and not implementing all these other things.
That's obviously not good. Yeah. Right. That's when you risk the loss of lean mass and yeah, that's not good.
Now they're doing another big thing, another trend is microdosing it for people.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like they're not taking the full dose, but you take half, you microdose it. So it just kind of takes the edge off. So it stops like the obsessive thoughts.
Wow.
And like you'll still eat, but you'll eat, let's say 15% less. So it's like a big hack that I know a ton of people take it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know anybody who's taking it other than my family member, but
yeah. And so, and like that one, I've heard a lot of bad things about that one in terms of the exhaustion that they're getting, but no one ever talks about it because they're skinny, so they don't care.
I mean, insulin is a peptide, I've been experimenting with certain peptides. Yeah.
What are you taking?
But I, not for vanity reasons. I take them because I have like back, I've got like chronic back issues and I work out really hard. So I've been trying to see if they help with like recovery and stuff like that.
Are you taking
BPC
Yeah.
157? Yeah, I was. To be honest, I didn't. I don't know if I've felt like anything like major from them. I think the effect, if there is an effect at all, is very subtle. But yeah, I mean, my recovery has been, I think, great, and my sleep has been really good. And
Are you taking hormones like testosterone or
no,
anything
no,
like
no.
that? Good for
And
you.
I would cop to it if I was, but yeah, I'm completely natty.
You're really?
Yeah,
That's amazing. That doesn't
but I
happen.
look natty. Come on, I mean, I'm not like,
No, no,
you
no.
know.
You look. Listen, I already gave you a million compliments. You look great.
Thanks.
But like most guys I know who are like in really great shape after a certain age, they're usually taking like a
No,
little
no,
bit of
not
testosterone.
me. I mean, I've thought about it, like if I can get like an edge with a little bit of extra
Yeah,
T
like a little
boost, but
edge.
no. I
You're all
well,
natural.
because I haven't done too deep a dive into this topic because I just like I feel like I've got other priorities, but there are concerns about like fertility and stuff like that. I don't want to screw. I
Totally.
don't want to screw with my fertility.
Do not. Speaking of which, this is a great segue to the fact that Max is no longer my number one eligible bachelor.
Oh man.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I got to change all the I guess all the rhetoric I want to talk about you to people because I'm always like Max. Da, 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 da. So can you please tell me who your girlfriend? You don't have to tell me her name, but like, how long have you had a girlfriend? Give me the like basics.
Oh God. Wow. It's been about 7 months.
Okay. Where'd you
Um,
meet?
we met on Raya, actually. But it's kind of a funny story. We met on Raya, which is a dating app. It's fairly well known in LA. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
if
very like entertainment person
yeah.
app.
Uh,
But she's not in entertainment, you said, right?
she's in the entertainment world, yeah. But we actually connected. We matched on Raya 8 years ago, which is very funny. She was like
Wow.
in college, yeah. But we matched, and I had sent a message back when we matched 8 years ago, and she never responded. And then about 7 months ago, I'm like,
Because now
home.
you're rich and famous. Now she's responding to you.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Well, actually, interestingly, so here's the thing. So the message that I got, I was like sitting on my couch watching like Netflix one night,
Yeah.
and I got a message on Raya. I saw the notification, but I wasn't talking to anybody on Raya at that point,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a match. It was a message. So I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
So I go into the app, and the message is like, "Hey, it looks like sorry for not responding, to your last message, which was." Apparently 8 years ago. I honestly didn't see it, but I just wanted you to know your work has really helped me navigate some chronic health issues and would love to grab a coffee if you're, ever in LA or something like that. And I was like, wow, that's flattering and interesting. Cause 8 years ago, like my Raya is a graveyard of
Yeah.
like women that I've messaged
say.
and, like, it's not like I remembered her. Although when I went to her profile, I was like, oh, she kind of looks, I can
Yeah.
vaguely remember, and she was actually like really cute. So I followed up and, we had a back and forth and we ended up going on a first date. I took her to a steakhouse, want to make sure to weed out the
Yes.
vegans,
100%. Which steakhouse did you go to?
Matu in Beverly Hills.
Oh, okay. Was it good?
So good. Yeah.
Okay.
All grass fed, amazing quality. They get their beef from First Light Farms in New Zealand, which is
Oh,
incredible.
wow. I'm going to go
Yeah.
there. Okay.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like a cathedral to meat, and like it's the best quality and it's so tasty.
Okay.
Anyway, so I took her there, and yeah, it was a great first date. She was like super cute. We were into each other, and she's super health conscious. She's very funny and smart, and comes from a good family. And
Where's she from?
she's from San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, which I was a little bit at first. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But no, she's cool. She's like based and, she's got passions and
What are her passions?
well, she's super health conscious. So she's like I mean not like over the top but she's like concerned about like exposure to environmental pollute. She's like, she's
Yeah.
like she's drank the Kool-Aid and
Yeah,
she's
she
like
drank the Kool-Aid.
yeah.
So she's a good match for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So how
So-
often do you guys see each other? How serious is it? Do I have to really like cross you off my list now? I mean,
Well, it's I get anxiety when I think about like when I try to project too far into the future, but we're having a good time. We like each other, and
Do you want kids? I'm
I
not saying with her. I'm just saying in general.
in general, I think I'm like yes, I do, but yes. It's sort of like I was going to say I'm on the I could go either way, but
Yeah.
I definitely more do want kids than I don't want kids.
They don't want kids.
Yeah.
Because you have two brothers. Are they married with kids or no?
One has 2 kids now.
Oh, okay.
Neither of them are married, but I have a very small family and we're very close.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why I feel in a way like I can go both ways, because I do, I have a really solid family life, but it's my brothers,
You feel like satiated by
yeah,
them.
yeah. But no, I would like to have kids.
So when am I going to meet this lovely lady of yours?
And you know what's funny? I've always wanted to have a daughter, but because my little brother has 2 daughters, there's no boys. I kind of feel like shit. I need to have like a boy. We got to keep the last name going,
You got to get cracking maybe then.
Yeah.
I think you'd make a good dad.
You think?
Yeah. Like you're super caring and like compassionate, like just how you were such a great son to your mom. I mean, I think that, and the fact that you just said that you're very close to the rest of your family, your brothers and everything else, like you seem like a family man. Like if you're a family man, don't you think that you should like continue to keep on growing the family? Because once your family's gone, they're gone.
No, 100%. Yeah. No, I do. I think I'd be a great dad. I have a cat and I'm a really good cat dad.
It's not the same, Max.
It's not the same.
The cat's not the same. I'll tell you a really funny story. When I had my second kid, my like her name is Sydney. Some woman said to me, some work friend was like, "Oh my God, it's like," and I was giving a story about when she was like, she had like the flu, and she's like, "I totally know how you feel when my cat got sick," and like my kid was like really sick, and she was like a year and had like super high temperature, and she was comparing her cat illness to my kid's illness, and I was like, "Oh my God, this woman is crazy. Please don't become that person." Like having a cat is not the same as having a child. I
love my cat so much, though.
You love that cat.
Yeah.
But you understand it's not the same, right?
I get, well.
Oh my God, you don't understand. It's not the same.
I don't know.
God.
I don't know.
You think having a cat's the same as having a kid?
She doesn't speak, but she's still very communicative and like, no, I don't think it's the same.
You do. I can see in your face.
I think it's similar, though. I do think it's similar.
Oh my God.
You ask any pet owner, their pets are like their children.
I understand.
The loss of a pet
it's horrible.
It's horrible.
But I will promise you, having a child is different than having a cat.
Well, yeah, it's a much more 3-dimensional experience of communion with another.
But I did see when I was telling you about this crazy cat woman, you actually kind of related to her. You're like, oh my God, actually, I would feel the same way. And you did mention the cat a few times on this podcast.
Well, look, I don't have kids, so like I can't, it's not something that I know about. But I'm just saying, like, I really love my cat. There's on a scale of 1 to 10, I love my cat 10.
How old is your cat?
She's like 8.
Because I remember when I came to your house, yes, the cat was very prevalent in that experience. I remember that. And then you brought up the cat twice on this podcast. Oh my God, you really do love that cat so much.
Very much. Yeah, her name is Delilah. She's like she's very sweet. Like she's excited to see me she's like a dog though, in that way. And like when I lay down on my couch to watch something, she like very excitedly jumps up on the couch, gets on my chest, and starts like, she loves me.
You love, yeah. Oh,
most cats are not like that,
which
is why it's a different relationship.
They're a lot of cats are not very that friendly. They kind of go to their own life and their own business, and they don't bother with people.
Mine is not like that. My cat is like not like that at all. She's like a puppy. She like very clearly loves me. It's like very funny. Yeah.
Where'd you get the cat?
Adopted her, rescued her from New York City. There was like a woman in Union Square one summer, I guess like 8 years ago, who was like adopting cats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you had to choose between the girlfriend and the cat, who would you pick? What if your girlfriend was allergic to cats? What would you do?
I'd be single.
I love the honesty.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, Max, I know you have to go. You have to go to your own thing or podcast, right?
Yeah, I do at some point soon.
So I'll wrap you. Okay, so guys, Max has that where is that documentary being played, by the way? It's
littleemptyboxes.com. So, comedians have shown this model to be true where they release a special, that hasn't been proven in the documentary world, but we're trying to do a fully independent release.
Okay. How does that work?
We're putting it online, and we're gonna, people can buy it, can rent it, can buy it. If people choose to buy it, we've got all kinds of goodies like a commentary track. We've got a special featurette only for people that purchase it. So there's all kinds of bonuses.
Wow.
But at littleemptyboxes.com, people can support, buy it, watch it. It's the most important project I've ever done.
100%. Like your heart and soul went into that project. And if you're a mom or someone who has a family member who has Alzheimer's, you will really get a lot of you'll get a lot of emotion and feeling from this movie, because I sure did. So anyway, it's called Little Boxes,
Little Empty Boxes.
littleemptyboxes.com. And Max, thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thanks, Jen. You're such a light. Always good to see you.
It's always great to see you. Now that you're not single, I don't know what I'm going to do for my new favorite bachelor, but it's a whole other story. Not your problem and not anybody else's problem. But all right, guys, thank you so much. And bye.